Welcome to the Friday Everyday Podcast. This is where we share and explore how to design a thriving business and lifestyle so that we can live the lives we've always wanted right now.
It's where strategy meets energy work. It's where we'll unpack how to build a business that works for you and we'll make it tangible and actionable. I'm Jody Rumack, an online business coach, and my mission is to help you grow and scale your online business to create time freedom so that you can spend more time doing the things you love with the people you love.
And I'm Brian DeCastro. As a holistic health practitioner and Reiki master, my part in this mission is to provide self-care support and spiritual guidance to business owners who are shifting to align with their next level way of being.
So come and join us here where every day feels like Friday and the vibe is fun, inspiring, and real.
Just sit back, relax, and enjoy. This moment is yours and you've earned it.
This is the Friday Everyday Podcast. All right, you guys, welcome back to the Friday Everyday Podcast. This is episode number 12, the last one of the very first season. And I'm so excited to be able to bring it full circle and come back and interview Brian.
All right. I'm scared.
Welcome back.
What are we going to do?
So we kicked off the season with interviews for each of us, and we ended the season with interviews for each of us as well.
Yeah.
Mine was episode 11 for anyone who hasn't listened to that one yet. And today we're going to do yours for number 12. So for anyone who didn't catch them or maybe doesn't remember, can you just kick us off with a little bit of a recap about how you got here, how you ended up becoming a holistic life coach and Reiki master? Tell us a little bit of the story.
Yeah, a lot of, I don't know if I'll have the similar details of the last episode and try to like not overlap, but I think to just give a high level, especially since we've come this far with like it's been a while since that first one, right? So what I would say, even kind of where I've ended up now is probably different than where I was at the time. But I got into fitness. I was always influenced by my family, my upbringing in the fitness space, and I got really into lifting weights in high school as a teen and stuff, training for sports and everything. That kind of put me on the map down the road in going to college for fitness after attempting graphic design and realizing there was no alignment there. So
Right.
so from that point, as a personal trainer in the industry, I had to start to discover innate skills that I had that I didn't necessarily learn in school, right? And over time, it evolved from personal training and focusing on fitness to more of a holistic model where, I kind of went on a spiritual path for a little while there too, sort of learning a little bit more about energy. In 2016, I opened my business, one of my older business, Domestic Athlete, which was supporting parents and professionals in busy lives and keeping them in shape and stuff. And I noticed there was a need for um, like mental, emotional, spiritual support
Yeah.
and stress management and stuff like that. Like aside from the fitness side of things, like really getting more into like a deeper level with clients and stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's evolved to where we are now, where um, I'm offering support in the entrepreneurial space because as entrepreneurs, we go through all these different transformations and challenges and blocks and things like that to help to continue aligning with where we want to go next in our business. So it kind of has come full circle in a really interesting way. And yeah, the things that are coming up now have been really, really powerful just with the working with people now in the space. So
Yeah.
that's what's been exciting in
Yeah.
this process so
Awesome.
far. Yeah.
So can you describe for everybody who maybe isn't that familiar with energy work, maybe they've just sort of started dabbling, or maybe for people who are, but they want to be more, they want to learn more about like specifically what you do. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Like, what is it when you're working with the entrepreneurs now? So when we work together, I do all the strategy stuff, you do all the energy work.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about what that actually looks like?
It's such a loaded question, right? Because it could just
Like
like
a
every
high level, a
yeah,
few sentences,
just like everything else,
idea.
this part of the industry can get overly complicated, right? And it doesn't need to. I believe that, you know, spirituality and energy and all of that stuff is just part of the human experience, right? And if I were to explain sort of my first encounters with it, I was, through certifications and things like that, where I've been introduced to the chakras, which is this seven main energy fields
Yeah.
in the body. Each one represents a certain aspect or component of our life, which might get into later. But what I found interesting more than ever, and this might be something that might relate to those listening, is in the personal training space. I noticed that I was working with pretty affluent clients that had access to resources and finances, and even just the ability to control their schedules to work with me, but also when they got injured or something happened, they had access to whoever they needed. And in Toronto, they had access to probably really high level, you know, manual therapists and all this stuff. But I know some people, like, their injuries just weren't healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't healing at a rate that we would expect that it would, having gotten all that other attention. In some cases, they were definitely better off with the extra, support. But I was asking, why is it always this same right ankle that keeps getting hurt or whatever? And asking questions like that led me to start learning more about the connection that is the connection between, like, say, our physical ailments and the emotional and spiritual components
Yeah.
to that injury, like the meaning behind. If you go on AI, you go on Chat GPT and you go and you ask, what is the emotional and spiritual meaning to left ankle sprain? You're gonna get something that's pretty interesting. If you've never seen it before, you're
Yeah.
going to get like a definition of what that injury actually means. And there's a difference between the left and the right. And if you
Right.
can you can even break it down to certain parts of the foot and ankle. Like, it can get really detailed. Um, just to create, I think what's important about that is not to completely ruminate and get really like crazy in the depths of that, but just
Yeah.
to understand that there's a meaning behind it and that there's no accident that you've received this message and it's expressing itself through your body to guide you. And I always used to believe, before I studied this stuff, I always used to believe that an injury or an illness or a setback of some kind, I think I'm saying it, I'm thinking, and I mentioned this in one of the other podcasts, was any kind of setback of some of a setback of any kind tends to give us an opportunity to stop
Yeah.
and become self-aware and reevaluate, self-evaluate, and
Yeah.
go, okay, am I even on the right path right now? Am I aligned with where I want to go next? Is this where I want to be in my life, my relationships, my health?
Yeah.
What is the lesson here? And if you're able to ask those questions, I personally believe you'll be on the path to healing much faster than if you're in resistance of all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
we can start there, I guess.
Okay. So it's like it feels a little bit abstract maybe for people,
Yeah.
but what everyone listening will come to
Mhm.
learn, which I have been learning while, you and I have been developing our friendship into a relationship and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And I've been learning over the years is like so much of it is looking at those connections and understanding that the physical and the spiritual emotional are connected and trying to uncover exactly what that is. And we're going to talk about a tool that you've created in a minute to
Mhm.
help sort of uncover what the heck is going on, right?
Yeah.
um but I just want to share this story really quickly and then we'll get going. Is that one of our friends just broke her foot last week,
Hmm.
and she is in the middle of a huge move. She's moving from one house to another. She has three young girls who are between 11 and 15. They're very busy. She's mom extraordinaire, driving all over the place. She's also a teacher. She's got all this stuff going on. Her husband is very busy at work in a high level position. and also trying to complete all the renovations. So he is doing a lot of the work.
Yeah, yeah.
And she called us yesterday and let us know that she had broken her foot. And we were just like, oh God, okay. But as you were talking just now, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, like this is, we have to look up the break, first of all, and see
Yeah.
what the emotional connection is, but also, like, it's a pretty good sign that she needs to slow down. And she's
Yeah.
been going, literally as long as I've known her. And the only time she ever took a break before was when she broke her foot in 2015.
Hmm.
And so now it's like taking the break where she has kids who are old enough to do things and take over and help out and all that stuff. And I just am thinking, like, this is the message, right? This is the message for her to slow down,
Yeah.
to delegate, to empower the other people around her, to ask for help,
Yeah.
right? And all that stuff. So just an interesting thing that literally just happened. Yes, we just found out yesterday.
Yeah, and you did actually a pretty good job of interpreting that. Like we can look at left and right and all these different things, right? But like it makes so much to me, it makes a ton of sense that, moving is a root chakra, sort of like chakra number one, root chakra, low extremity is where it innovates, right?
Hmm.
So moving alone is related to family, safety and security, tribal space, all that stuff, and moving, even if it's an exciting time, you're moving somewhere even better or whatever. Like it's still a stress of some kind. And as you go up the ages too, like my parents' age and in their age, I've heard something that after age 75 for elders, it's moving is like a trauma to them, like because they're so familiar with they rely on familiar
Yeah.
environment and all these different things. Like moving's a big fucking deal. Like I mean,
Yeah.
also physically, like I don't know if you've ever had back in our 20s when your buddy goes, hey, like, hey, you want to help me move, right? And you're like, sure, I'm there, right? And then he's gonna order beer and pizza and stuff like that. But people don't realize like how much physical labor is involved in moving. That's why we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for people, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars
Yeah.
to have professional movers because they're so friggin' good at it. Like it's a skill, right? And
Yeah.
it's like five workouts in one day sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that on alone physically is a stress, right? And all the changes that are happening, changing a new environment, exciting, but also still kind of like a big thing for the emotional and spiritual side of things, right? And yeah, in the case that you described, and I think a huge thing with the mom archetype is their superpower is to look after everyone else but themselves, right? First. So and as things evolve in life, kids get older and all these different things happen. Like I mean, there's an opportunity or a phase where actually nurturing and mothering them is to step back and let them
Yeah.
discover their own independent, like their own self-sufficiency in certain areas that you've been helping them and supporting them and teaching them with,
Yeah.
right? So I think everyone, especially in a household and a family dynamic, one person gets injured in a certain way sometimes, it naturally affects everybody else in the
Yeah. Yeah.
house, right?
For sure.
So yeah, there's a lot going on there, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
So part of like the next steps, even for her now that this has happened, or
Mhm.
for anyone when stuff is going on, is to figure out how to sort of manage themselves and how to manage their energy and how to still stay on track and all of that stuff. And
Mhm.
so over the years, you have gone through so many iterations of the tool we're going to talk about now
Yeah.
because I remember when they were in different versions, and through your learnings and through the teachings that you've gone through and through the mentors that you've had and all that stuff, you've had different examples of tools like this. But this one is yours. This is one that you've created, that you've put together with all of the you know, background that you have. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your Lifeforce scorecard, is what we call it.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to share, the four sections in it, how they work. Maybe let's just do one at a time so we can kind of chat about each of them. But let's go through the four and talk about how they work and how they can help people just manage themselves on a day-to-day basis, whether something's going on or even whether it isn't.
Yes. What I love about this is anyone can take it any time in the phase of the process that if they're working with me in the phase of the process of what we're doing, it can be used as a regular evaluation tool, but also a like a setting a benchmark at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
tool, or even just a self diagnose. I don't like to use diagnosis, but a self diagnostic way to to evaluate where they are in their health, their fitness, wellness, lifestyle. Back when I was in working in the gym, sometimes you ask people what their goals are, and they'll say like something super vague, like general wellness or holistic health or whatever. And I'm like, well, are we going to measure that? Like
Yeah.
how do you measure even that you need that, right? And how do we know if we've achieved any of it, right?
Yeah.
So finding a way of creating balance, because I can work very intuitively and I can live in nuance if you want. But
Yeah.
I've also learned that having some sort of benchmarks or measurable tools are also helpful, right? So inspired by the Four Doctors by Paul Chek, who was one of my teachers and mentors.
Yeah.
I've looked to have use ways to evaluate these four areas with not just clients, but people just kind of starting out in that first conversation,
Yeah.
right? There's a fast way to do it, and there's like a way, there's a questionnaire and everything, right? So just to start with, it's four main areas that I think if we have a handle on these 4 years, we've captured a lot of the low-hanging fruit in our journey before even have to unpack anything at a deeper level, right? So the first one is your movement practice. Like how much exercise are you getting based on what 5 out of 5 might mean to you? And that's a huge part. I really like to get a feel for where people are at as far as what their expectations are of themselves.
Yeah.
So if you were to define what a 5 out of 5 in your movement practice, say in a given week, right? How many times would you go to the gym, or how many times would you move your body, or stretch, or run, or whatever it is? Based on your movement practice, where are you sitting out of 5, right?
Yeah.
Are you meeting the standard you've set for yourself? And when we talk about standards, it's an opportunity also for me to discuss with them, are those standards even realistic right now in
Right.
your lifestyle? So think of that for all these four areas. So the first one is the movement practice. Part of that also in my original questionnaire, part of that included some mobility tests, some certain range of motion tests that might indicate your potential to access the movement resources you need to do things,
Yeah.
right? Or there was one question I had in one of my questionnaires was, if you're at the airport with a whole bunch of luggage and you had to rush to make it to the check in, would it be a problem for you to really hustle with luggage in your hands for about 200 meters? Like, would you miss the plane? Or would you be able to do that safely or whatever, right? That varies between ages too, but like it's just a scenario that sometimes we get into where having some movement resources will prevent us from getting hurt and actually succeeding in the mission, right? So, movement practice is the first one. Um,
Okay.
the second one is fueling habits. So, how are you feeding your body? How are you hydrating? Again, what is 5 out of 5 for you based on what you know, based on your education or your experience in this area, right? There's a lot of interesting rules and dogma and overcomplicating in this space that can just make it so difficult for us to navigate, right? So where do you fit in this space? Because how we feed our body not only dictates how we're going to feel, like where the energy is going to come from, but
Mhm.
also it's if our goal is in body composition is to lose weight, like are we even creating enough of a caloric deficit to allow that to even happen, even if you're eating healthy food? But
Yeah.
also from the health perspective, are you making healthy choices? Are you making the best possible healthy choices given the situation? Like, I just was traveling with my son for 3 days. We were on the road for a bit. We stopped at some en routes and stuff on the highway there, and based on what is open, what's available, like what is the healthiest choice in that scenario. So it's not,
Yeah.
we're not talking about, like free range, organic, everything like, perfect every single time. Just thinking in given situations based on your lifestyle, ha are you aware of the choices you're making,
Right.
right? For
Yeah.
optimization. So fueling habits is the second one. Third one is rest and recovery. So people tend to sometimes focus a lot on all the doing and not focusing as hard in rest and recovery. So it's how many, are you getting 6 to 8 hours of quality sleep a night, right? Are you doing everything you can to make your sleeping environment optimal, right? Are you allowing transition time between activities? So if you're doing a lot of work related admin work, and then you're going into a client call or you're going into a family related activity next, are you allowing transition time to make a shift into who you need to be for the next thing? Because that takes energy, and it takes energy to overlap those things where you could be like almost like um, hemorrhaging or bleeding extra energy when you don't need to be, right? So rest and recovery is the third one as well. And just getting quiet is another thing too, right? So the fourth one is fun and fulfillment. Is one that we've been noticing in our space too. Has been like a sort of like an eye opener for some of the people in our membership. Is
Yeah.
are they actually intentional about finding things or doing things or arranging for time for things that actually feeds them, that feeds their soul, that makes them happy, that makes them laugh? Like
Yeah.
whether it be hobbies, sports, time with people you love being around, right? Coffee chats with friends that you come away with energized and not drained, right? Putting yourself into environments that energize you versus out of obligation participating in another activity or in an environment that you didn't really want to do in the first place, and now you're draining yourself and draining your time and your life force. So
Yeah.
those are the four main things we score upon, 5 points each. And basically what I do with this is whatever the one that scores the lowest is the area that I call the area of greatest potential, where we can pick a habit or a task or something to create the most, to yield the most sort of like positive impact on your energy, on how you're feeling, on your level of sort of like control you feel you have over your lifestyle again. All this helps like kind of pull the pressure valve on the stress and the anxiety around changing or shifting something and just kind of giving you a bit of a boost, right? And sort of that's how we get things started because there's so many based on what I just said, like there's so many different things we can choose and it can be very overly complicated and it's also a lot to change too many things at once,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of that's where I start in the first part of the conversation once someone's ready to start making some changes or looking into it.
Yeah, I really love this tool because it's super easy to use. I love how the scoring is based on what a five, because you're scoring each section out of five, what a five is for you. It's not this like standard that's expected for everybody. It's like you
Yeah.
get to decide what five is for you. And I think for a lot of people, that takes a lot of pressure off, right? That
Hmm.
takes a lot of this feeling of having to live up to the expectations or having to do more than they have the capacity for. And often when people are coming to you, it is because they are depleted in some way, right? And
Yeah.
so, you know, giving them more things to do and adding things to their plate that feel daunting or out of reach or all of that stuff is probably not going to be helpful. So I love that this tool allows people to define what each of those four sections are for themselves before they start to do the scoring, right? And the other thing that's so great because I have been through this scorecard many times and I've also been through the next phase which we're going to talk about in a second. And I think just the idea of being able to choose one thing and that the one thing is always small. Like the way that
Yeah.
you do it is always small. This is not like, okay, we're running a 5K next week. It's like, can you walk 10 minutes a day? Right?
Yeah.
Like very small increments. So before we get into how we take the tool and then move into the next phase and how you use it on an ongoing basis, can you just talk to us a little bit about how people would know that they maybe need this or that they should reach out to you? Like, how do they know that this is their next step? What are some indicators for them?
Um, Some indicators would be, I could speak to my own personal experience because I still use this from time to time, right? I'm in the middle of a process right now. Is um, for one, just intuitively, they kind of know that something's missing, right?
Yeah.
Whether there's no joy in their life, or maybe they're noticing their relationship situation's stagnant and it's been stagnant for a while. They just don't know what to do next, right? Um, maybe life is feeling little bit too repetitive and flat, or they're noticing there's too much drama in their life. And they're constantly stressed out and they're never getting a chance to settle down or feel connected to anything.
Mhm.
They're lacking a sense of purpose. Some of the more sort of familiar signs and symptoms would be just anxiety in the morning, frustration, struggling to like overcome like habits or addictions like overeating or binging or just anything at that level. I don't work at the more extreme level of like sort of medical, like high level addictions, but more the everyday lifestyle kind of like things that we do. You could be also addicted to certain emotions and drama, right? Like some people just like are addicted to their life being completely upside down all the time because that's how they show up, right? So whether or not that's sustainable is a whole other question, but like there's got to be some sort of desire
Yeah.
for them to change or shift or impact or activate something in their life, right? And it often shows up in their health, their relationships, or their self satisfaction in maybe how they contribute in the world, right? So those three main things seem to be what's showing up, either all three of them or one of them or whatever. Just unsatisfied, frustrated, um, in some cases, they might feel in in more deeper conversations like they're awakening to something, like
Mm.
like I've gotten this to this point in my career or this point in my life, and I thought I'd be happier by now, and I'm not.
Mm.
Why? Why do I feel like there's more, right? And not from a selfish place, not from an ungrateful place,
Yeah.
right? Another thing is just feeling this low grade um the low grade need to just sort of like hatch or break open or emerge of some in some way, right? Like reinventing yourself at a level that is seeking fulfillment, contribution, love, not from like sort of an ego place of like not just rolling into another addiction sort of thing. More so just like that there's more. There's got to be more to life and this experience. So that's why I'm often working with people in their middle ages and stuff too, is people are in these phases where they've accomplished a lot in their life and they've had experiences, but now there's just sort of this void or this space that they're not sure about,
Yeah.
right? And before they become aware, it's getting filled with things. It's getting filled with watching more sports, it's getting filled with alcohol, it's getting filled with all these things until you realize this is not sustainable. My body's changing and I don't like where it's going. So that's kind of how I would describe the situation. And I've been through it myself, number of phases in my life where I've just been needing more. And that's what kind of created the birth of this process.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing that. So once people sort of have that light bulb moment, they're thinking there must be more, they're having those feelings, anxiety, frustration, stagnation, whatever it is, they decide to come to you. You guys do the scorecard. That's usually one of the first things that you would do, incorporated with obviously a conversation and uncovering what's going on with them. And ooh, and I actually feel like I want to talk about that too, because you ask a really great question when you get started with people. You always ask them what has your attention right now.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's a just like a little something you can say about that before we talk about the next phase after the scorecard.
Yeah, like I've said before, there's so many things that pe we could talk about in the first consult or the first conversation, right? And people can come in and go, finally, someone is willing to listen to me
Mm,
with all this stuff going on in my head and whatever, and they want to unload a lot of stuff, but at the same time, um, that could take hours to do and end up not being productive, right? So the way I kind of direct or structure that first conversation is what has your attention these days that you would like to shift or put put healing energy towards or or impact more in your life, right? Like what has your attention? And just pause and let them just sit with that for a second and then it comes up, right? Then that helps steer me, as a generator too, my human design, it helps steer me where I need to go with them in the conversation, right? And then that's where we sort of like break down things, whether we have the scores already or we can go into the scores. We can sort of pull out or flush out like that one move we can make that's going to start yielding some amazing results in a very short period of time.
yeah, love it. Okay. So you've done the call, you've gone through the scorecard in some way, shape, or form. You've come up with the one that has the most opportunity for sort of potential growth and stuff like that. What's the next step? You always talk about this 10-day reboot. So can you share
Yeah.
with everybody what that really means and then the phases that come from that?
Yeah, the 10-day reboot was inspired by my experience that I had in a Vipassana meditation retreat, which is actually 10 days silent retreat where once the course starts, nobody says anything for 10 days straight, right? We meditate basically full time with the guidance of a teacher. Some of the teachings is like the original teachings of Buddha, and we eat two vegan meals a day, so they provide food and sleep and all that stuff. And you basically have like this, you don't make eye contact, there's anything like that, right? So it's like it's like you're literally depriving your senses of any external stimulus that is unnecessary to what you are there for, right? So what was interesting about that experience was I noticed that certain phases of each day there was it had its own theme or shift, right? And I found by day three, um, I had realized why I was there. When I thought I knew why I was there, but I realized why I was there on day three, probably after the second meditation of the day, all frustrated because I felt like I wasn't meditating well enough, or I was like almost in a competitive state still. I'm like, what am I competing in? Nothing, right? Um, so I learned from my experience there, so immersive, that I was like, well, when I work with people, it'd be cool if there was a process I could take them through that allows them the opportunity to um, restore self-control, restore their direction, or restore their ability to interrupt behaviors and shift things, right? So that's why I started this 10 days rather than a week, right? Rather than 3 days, right?
Yeah.
So we're so accustomed to the 7 day work week cycle.
Yeah.
To go past 7 days, it's a different enough sort of shift. It's a long enough time that you can start to really see things happen, right?
Yeah.
So we would do the evaluation, pick that one thing, and then we would start this 10-day process, right? Prior to the 10-day process, one thing I've learned in this process is anytime we want to add or disrupt or change something, or really focus on something in a very profound way, um, if we haven't created room for that, the likelihood of failing is so much greater, right?
Yeah.
So what do I mean by that? If someone wants to work in like a 15 meditation on their reboot, right? They've never meditated before. They want to add in 10 to 15 minutes meditation, um, and and be in contact with me every day while it's happening. If they haven't created a space in their home. They haven't created a time in the day or multiple options in the day
Mhm.
where they take something out of their day to create space for it. If they didn't create space for it, the likelihood of it being more of a stress than something better for them is greater, right? So,
Yeah.
um, 3 to 5 days, I recommend, and we discuss it in their planning phase, is we discuss like what is something you can take out so you can replace it with something with this new micro habit that we're going to try adding, right? And it could be like they're noticing they're scrolling every morning for a half an hour on their phone, right? Or they're just like watching a lot of TV, or they're they're going to bed really late, right? And it's kind of screwing up the rest of the morning and all whatever it is. You just do a lifestyle audit of what's going on.
Yeah.
And trust me, there's opportunities to
Yeah.
make space for this new thing, right? Um, and then we begin the process. So day one, they perform the task, whatever it is, their morning walk or their meditation or their writing or whatever it is. And then they report back to me and share that they did it. We have a small exchange. Sometimes I might send a video
Yeah.
or words of encouragement. We just keep going. And as it goes on, if they play full on, if they've created a situation where they can play full on, um, they will notice a fair bit of change in like the first 3, 4, or 5 days, which is really exciting, right? And then we take that activation and we just keep adding fuel to the fire,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's how it begins. So
Yeah, so let's talk a bit more about the days because I remember specifically, like I said, I've done this a few times in a few different scenarios with different habits and whatever, but I do remember one of the times, I think it was the first time that I went through this, and I remember thinking or like feeling on day 3 or 4,
yeah,
just all of this stuff coming up. Like maybe it was day 4, like days 1 through 3 felt relatively easy. I was able to do the task. I was able to just like easily get it done. And then day 4 came and it was like all the emotions and all the negatives and all the like,
yeah.
what are some things that people going through this 10-day sort of reboot with this new micro habit, what are some of the things that they should expect? Good or bad?
Yeah, like I think what they should expect is one thing that I share with people is I congratulate them on day three because I
Mm-hmm.
tell them how probably like 50% of the people don't even make it this far because their limiting beliefs or limiting habits are so strong that their ego's prepared to make a million excuses why it's not going to work or create ways to sabotage it, right? So, and I don't make anyone wrong for that. I expect it. I expect sometimes that happens, right? So, the first 3 days is the first little window where we're like, let's lock in now and get through this, right? But I think what happened in your case, that first one was meditation, right? So the first 3 days you were peeling layers,
Hmm.
right? And you got to a deeper layer in your practice where something came to your awareness that, and again, a lot of what we're seeking in the very beginning is like it's active, it's triggered by a sense that there's something deeper down and we can't even put words to it yet.
Yeah.
And then in something like, say, in your case, the meditation practice, we were able to get there.
Yeah.
Like, it turned out that was the better thing to do for you at the time than maybe starting a walking practice,
Yeah.
right? I've worked with a client that has like she had like this addictive nature to sugar,
Mm.
right? And day two, day three, like we were kept trying to start over again. And I was like, maybe sugar is too hard a thing for you to deal with right now. Maybe we just leave that alone and focus on some other habit that can just create the resilience and create the mental and emotional strength to deal
Yeah.
with the sugar thing after. It's like, maybe someone's smoking, right? And maybe that's not the habit to crush in your first reboot. Maybe there's some other things you can do prior to that to reinforce that conviction, that confidence that you can overcome other things, right? So there's a lot of different ways to approach it depending on the person.
Yeah. Okay, that's so helpful. And then what happens like through those 10 days if somebody doesn't complete? What if they miss day 3 or day 5 or day 7, or maybe they miss a few days? Like, what does that look like? How do you kind of help them get through that part?
The good news is the process actually carries on to the first 21 days. So there's opportunities to course correct, but also I've tried different things. I've tried like a harder challenge is in your reboot. The idea is to do 10 consecutive days in a row. If you break one of those days, we start over at
Mm,
day one. So for
okay.
some people, that is an approach. For other people, it's we're going to do 10 days and do your best to get like 80%,
Okay.
right? Or whatever it is. If you get 40%, that's the measurement so far in your first reboot. That's your first experience,
You
right?
did a feeling in my body when you talked about 10 days in a row, and if you miss, you have to start over. I felt like, ugh,
Yeah.
that felt like a lot.
Because
But
I did one. I had another man on my men's team put me through another one, and it was 14 days. And he says if you miss it, you start over, right? And there was a stress around that, but I was like,
that feels
there's no way I was missing a day,
a lot.
right?
But also, like when you say, or we can do it and you do the best you can, let's try to get to 80%.
Yeah,
I feel like, at least for me, I probably would do the 10 days. But
yeah,
just having the feeling of knowing like I'm not totally screwing it up if or I don't have to start again if I do miss
yeah.
feels easier.
There's funny, like we just did a group recently too, and one I always learn some fun things from this as well. Is I sometimes forget or get surprised by how much it activates like so many rules that we had as kids
Yeah,
that there's something wrong if it's hard or whatever, or they miss a day and then there's all this guilt and shame. It's like I'm not looking to create a situation for you to guilt or shame yourself. That is not the vibe. That's not what this is for,
right.
right? If your first reboot is you did 3.5 days out of 10, then that's your first experience. That's where you're at, right? And don't don't like almost like don't ruminate or overthink it. Like just,
Yeah,
what did you learn from those 3.5 days?
yeah,
What did you learn from the 10 days where the other days where you felt guilty the whole time, like, or whatever it is, like
yeah,
what did you learn from, there's always going to be something you can learn from the experience,
yeah,
right? And guaranteed, likely the second time around, they're going to make it.
yeah, yeah,
Right? It's just it surprises us, right? Because you are actually disrupting. The way I describe it is, um, there's different versions of us. There's an older version, 1.0 version of us that is being coming along in this process. When you get to day 3, day 5, day 6, or whatever, that version of you goes, wait a minute, something new is happening right now.
yeah. I don't like
And
it.
yeah, and that version of us is also designed to keep us in the same place, keep us safe, prevent change and whatnot. And then it kind of kicks in. It starts to speak a little louder, right? In some cases, for me, I've experienced things where that other version of me is kind of like, dark and it will try anything to try to get me to stop, right? And then negative talk and all these different things come up, right? So it just depends on where someone's at in their experience, right? But I try to tell people, like, expect stuff to come up. Like if you chose the right thing for right now, and if the timing is right for you right now, you're gonna get something out of this, and it's gonna be, it might be significant,
Yeah,
by like day 5 or 6 or whatever,
yeah,
and you're gonna notice some pushback from yourself,
yeah.
right, to get it done. So
And so, like, what would be some of the outcomes by the end of that first 10 days? Like, assuming they did, as best as they could, they made it through whatever percentage, 60, 70, 80%,
yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
What are the outcomes that can come out of this 10 days in terms of like how they feel, maybe in terms of what's actually happening in their life? Like, what can happen in just those 10 days?
A bunch of things can happen. Like, There could be a change in perspective. At the time prior to starting, you might have felt like you had very little control over your life. Things are kind of repetitive and mundane and boring and stuff like that. And you realize, wow, in a short period of time, I could really activate my perspective on what's actually available to me simply from doing this one little task, right? The second thing is mentally and emotionally too. Like there's you build resilience, you build a bit more confidence, courage to move forward. There's some things that come up there. Um, you can also just physically in your body, it can activate, depending what you choose again, it can activate energy. Like you could feel lighter. You could
Yeah.
feel more empowered, right?
Yeah.
Um, Optimistic. You could feel more sense of possibility, sense of, wow, there's so much more. Like I'm awakening to something or emerging, right? So it's amazing what comes up, especially when people play full on. And that's when we know we've had sort of like there's an opportunity to build some momentum now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is so good because and I really want people to like take in what you just said because the level of change that can happen in just those 10 days with such a small habit, it's actually so great. Right? Like and people often think and we both know this from being in our like fitness, world forever, people often think they need to make like these huge changes, right? And they go into Monday and it's like, okay, starting Monday, I'm going to walk 5 days a week. I'm going to eat clean. I'm going to not touch anything with any sugar in it. And like they're asking themselves to do
Yeah,
5 things at once and cold turkey on all of them or go hard on all of them. And it's no wonder people don't follow through,
yeah,
right? Things don't work out. And then they get into that shame cycle of like, I said I was going to do it and then I didn't. And then now it's like, F it. And I'm just going to go do as much of the thing that I'm not supposed to do as I can. And then on Monday, I'll start to get right.
yeah,
Like that's how we get into all of it. And so I think that's why I really love the idea of one, the 80%, which
hmm
I think most people would actually probably get to the 10
hmm
days, but just knowing that they had some flexibility makes it feel maybe a little bit easier. And I love how small the tasks are. Like it
yeah,
can literally be meditate for 3 to 5 minutes. And
yeah,
as the week goes on, if people feel that they can do more, like you had a client who this happened to recently, she started with a very short amount of time. And by
hmm
the end of the 10 days, she was doing like what, 45 minutes or something.
yeah, yeah. And
Right. So,
it's become a practice, and she knows the difference if she doesn't do the practice,
right. And
right?
so, yeah, I just think it's like, it's so, so powerful. Were you going to say something else? Sorry.
I think also too, it's just it, like I said, everyone has their own experience and you don't it isn't one thing, this isn't something that you can only do it once. Like you can do it whenever you need to do it, right?
Yeah.
And what you experience at the time could be just what you need to experience for now, right? And with the phase, it's usually around 4 phases, this sort of like startup phase, which is,
Yeah.
the first 3 to 5 days is the preparation phase, is creating room through a lifestyle audit, creating room to actually install this new habit. The activation is one to is day like after the preparation is 10 to 21 days was a habit forming sort of like phase, right? And
Mhm.
then the third one is alignment, where now we've say you've mastered getting to bed on time,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah.
as a result, it's making your mental state better in the morning, right?
Yeah.
You're more focused. It's creating some bandwidth for you to consider making better food choices. Also, I find when we're not really tired, we're not craving caffeine, sugar, all these other comfort foods.
Yeah.
We're just functioning in a way that we can make better decisions, right? Maybe you're ready to take on a little bit of a walking practice now, right?
Yeah.
Um, and you know, I can shoot you a weekly journal prompt or something, so you can do a bit more of sort of like the introspective work. Like
Yeah.
it creates room for more stuff down
Yeah.
the road, right? So then the alignment phase, which is the third phase, is where we kind of like put this practice into, we've mastered, say, maybe in the first 40 days, the one of the habits, right? Now we can start adding the other ones and sort of stacking them a little bit, and they kind
Yeah.
of like one kind of leads into the next, right? It creates room for the other, right? And in that alignment phase is where we kind of like we get on a nice like groove, right? For a
Yeah.
little while, and we can take on a little bit more, and we start to notice like people will actually notice the difference, or you might feel compelled to share it with others because you're
Yeah.
just like I didn't realize it was I could just do a simple change of something, and now like my whole outlook on my lifestyle right now is completely changed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like one of the things too, just when you're talking about how to fit things in and when and what they're supposed to be and stuff, I think that's really where your expertise and your coaching really comes in, right? Because anybody could take what we talked about today and go and apply it on their own. Absolutely.
Hmm.
But if they get stuck in things like, well, I can't do this, or they think they can't do it every day because kids and running around and busy job and life and all of that stuff, it's like that's where you come in to be able to help them identify those spots and
Yeah.
figure out where they can put something in and figure out what is realistic so they can get through the 10-day reboot and be able to go through all the phases like preparation, activation, alignment, and all the way to breakthrough,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The idea is that you are helping them be able to identify this is the holistic life coaching piece that you do
Mhm.
that goes along with the energy clearing and all of that, where you help them be able to figure out what's the number one, what's the thing that's going to make the most impact, and two is where are we going to fit it in, right?
Yeah.
Helping them figure out what to take out in order to put the new thing in, and then of course like helping them along the way and encouraging them and being there to have you to talk to when something does come up and it's day 4 and you're like in panic mode like I remember like texting you and just being like what is happening,
Yeah.
everything's been good the last 3 days and today I feel like shit
Yeah.
and my thoughts are all over the place and whatever it was, right? So I think this is where the holistic life coaching piece with your background in health and fitness and movement and nutrition and all of those things and just helping people manage all the pieces. And what I have always loved so much about you and the work that you do is that you are someone who's able to take this abstract, you know, stuff whatever the word is, well, I need a better word than stuff, but all these abstract kind of pieces and put them together and make them actionable. And I
Yeah.
think that's like just a huge standout about what you do and how you're able to take all the things that you've learned and all the things you're hearing from them, and you're such a great listener, and being able to create that clarity for people and turn it into something that they can understand, right? Because
Yeah.
I know for me, for so long, and I'm getting better now, but for so long, I'd be like, can you just say that to me in English? Like, I don't understand what you're saying. It's too abstract for me.
Mhm.
It's like asking me to find the theme of a book. Like, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know the story, it's black and white, but don't ask me to come up with the theme. So, for anyone who's like me, who doesn't get it all the time, or has a harder time, like digging deeper into that, those types of sort of conversations,
Mhm.
you are just really good at creating those actionables and making it something that people can like bite off, you know?
Yeah, a big part of it is infused in the structure I built out in our calls, like in our sessions, because at first there's like a check-in sort of thing, just get a feel for how everything's going in this moment in time, right? And then
Yeah.
usually from that we generate a focus. But also in the background, I'm doing a intuitive read energetically of what's going on as well.
Yeah.
And that helps guide me as far as the questions I'm going to ask in the call, right? And then we can unlock, we can reveal and unlock certain things that might be having them blocked with
Yeah.
moving forward, right? And and also I feel that you know as we move through this process, it's not going to be linear. There's going to be moments where we
Yeah.
fall off, or there's gonna be moments where we're challenged more, and those could be opportunities, right? To go deeper or whatever. I think too that that we have. in some of these areas, like especially movement practice and in fueling, there's a lot of dogma and rules and ways
Yeah,
to complicate the process. Like I have four
yeah,
pillars for each of those two components as well. And
yeah,
it says cover these things and you've covered most of it. We'll
yeah,
worry about getting into more details down the road if we need to. But most people in nutrition or in the fueling category aren't hitting these four things in any intuitive, in any intentional way. And as
yeah,
a result, they're
yeah,
guessing with their diet, and
yeah,
the metrics aren't aligned, and they're just guessing, and they're wondering why every Monday they're up 2 more pounds again, or they're up the 2 pounds they lost the week before is back on
yeah,
Monday. It's like, well, all of that your calorie deficit you had going into Friday afternoon got got topped up on the
yeah,
weekend,
yeah.
right?
I think there's again, there's like a something beautiful with the simplicity that you use to help people move forward because most people would actually see really amazing results if they did what the basic things are in each of the categories.
Yeah,
Like people, like you said, they try to overcomplicate. They try to, like don't eat fruit because it has too much sugar. Like
yeah,
that's not what we're doing. Like
mhm,
maybe don't eat 6 cupcakes. Let's start with
yeah,
that. It's
yeah,
it's not like if people would just do the basic things in their movement, in their fueling, in their rest and recovery, in their fun and fulfillment, like a baseline of all of them would actually get people really far ahead that, they think they need to do these huge steps or all of it or whatever, and they don't.
yeah. One thing in the fueling category is literally just planning, right? That's a huge part of it. And if they're trying to get off sugar or make better food choices or whatever, if they plan before they go to the social event and make an agreement with themselves, this is what it's going to look like. And my goal is to leave there feeling like I enjoyed the event. I'm not bloated. I'm not regretful of the choices I made. And what would cause regret would be this, and this. Or, I'm allowing myself this, or I'm choosing this. And when I come out of that, that's fine. But if you don't go in with a plan, it's very easy for a lot of people to be influenced by the environment, being
Sure.
social and other people who don't even know you're actually trying to make some changes. And as a result, you end up just falling into that and then making choices you didn't want to make, driving home that night going, I I screwed up my plan now. Like I messed up my plan. And
Yeah.
and depending on who you are, that might just throw the whole thing off, or you might just forgive yourself right away. It depends on that's why we only choose one thing, because there's so many ways to unpack this rabbit hole of this one habit that can really reveal a lot of really cool stuff that we can work with to kind of
Yeah.
work through, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, this is so great. So before we wrap up, are there any sort of final thoughts or anything that you think people really need to know that we haven't touched on yet before we go?
I think that what I really try to do and what my coaching has evolved into over the years is is you the listener have more knowledge and wisdom than you think.
Mm,
If you allow yourself to kind of get centered and calm and introspective, and the more that more introspection becomes a practice, the more um, the more you can rely on what comes up for you when you get still. Um, Once you get still and grounded and centered, and you ask a question on something that you're seeking guidance on, there's a voice in you that's really a version of you that, maybe the next level version of you or whatever that
yeah,
can basically give you feedback, could give you the insight you need, right? I was chatting with some guys the other day about this, and I said, try if you're trying to clean up, how you're eating and stuff, one of the things you can do is just when you sit down to the menu or the meal, the restaurant, or whatever, ask your body, what is the most optimal choice for
Yeah.
me to be healthy and energized this evening, right? Ask a very specific question about what would be the choice
Yeah.
that like, and ask the body, what do you need, right? To
Yeah.
be healthy, vital, to feel energized and clear tonight.
Yeah.
And what you end up choosing is going to be potentially something different than what you would choose in a more emotional sort of
State.
circumstance or a reactive circumstance, or you're in your favorite restaurant. Oh, I love when we had this one meal this one time. We had that cheesecake after and we had like a couple of beers. Let's try to replicate that exact thing. Um, you might come out of that with a good experience, or you might come out of that going, it
Mm,
doesn't feel like I thought it would feel.
okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So your body knows, your body almost never lies. And that's how like energetically in the Reiki space and when I work in people ask me like, how did you know that thing about me just now? I'm like, well, for one, I'm not like a psychic or anything. I'm just like, I've tuned the instrument. So when I ask a question or when you're sharing something with me, I can pick up on where energetically in the body out of those seven chakras, where that's coming up,
Mm,
right? And it's either stressed out or it's blocked or whatever. And sometimes I get themes or phrases in that area. And I'll ask you the question, this is what I'm getting in the solar plexus. I had this conversation with someone in our first conversation the other day, like a
yeah.
connection call the other day. And I said, this is what I'm getting. I don't know anything about her personal life, but what I picked up and shared with her was completely aligned with what she was experiencing. And she was able to speak to what was important at the time to create a shift. And she actually said that I feel lighter now. I feel more
Yeah.
clear about what I need to do, how it's impacting my business and my direction right now, and how it could impact later once I've cleared a bit more of what I'm dealing with at my
Yeah.
personal level, right? So, the more we can do these things and refine our health, our vitality, and our sense of self-awareness and stuff, and come up with different ways to do it, we can now gain access to like this abundant level of guidance
Yeah.
and I find it I'm giving people less as a more seasoned coach. I'm giving people less advice now, telling people what to do less.
Yeah.
I'm asking more questions and asking them. Usually at the end of every session, I'll say, what are three things that you're pulling from this conversation? It could three next steps or three action steps. It could be three insights. It could be three just things that you're interested in exploring further, whatever. Just give me three things that you pulled from the conversation because we could talk about all kinds of stuff
Yeah.
in a 1 hour call, but like come out of it going like, where am I now still? Right. And I'll ground it in, usually it's three action steps is ideal, right? Like I'll ground it in through asking them. Again, me not telling them what to do, but me asking them what is coming up for you right now. That you're clear what is coming up for you right now as far as next steps and when do you think is realistic for you to make a move on those things, right? And
Yeah.
then we go from there. It's a way that we get more buy-in too. Like they're a part of their own, they're leading their own sort of like journey now, right?
Yeah.
Rather than being kind of like thrust into this thing that they may not be ready for.
Yeah. This has been so huge. And we use this um, in our workouts where you taught me to ask myself what I needed.
Yeah.
So we'd go downstairs where we have all of our equipment in the basement. We've got everything that you need to get in a full workout. And sometimes we didn't feel like it. And it was like, okay, let's just go downstairs. And then when we get there, we just each ask ourselves, like, what do I need today? And sometimes it was like, I need to lift something heavy today. Like, I need to get that out. And sometimes it was, I'm just going to start with mobility. I don't know how I feel right now. Let me just start with like getting on the ground and start moving around, you know? And again, even that is intuitive, right? Just letting our bodies like move the way that it needs to. And I remember this one day we both started on the ground in our own sort of areas.
Yeah.
And I went into lifting, and you half an hour later were still on the ground doing mobility.
Yeah.
And so it was like, that's just what you needed that day. And that's just what I needed that day. And so um, I really have loved learning more about how I can just access my own wisdom and my own feelings and thoughts and everything just by asking myself those kinds of questions. And I think the one other thing that came up for me just as you were talking is, there are so many different ways for us to clear ourselves. And to someone who hasn't done this kind of work before, that might sound sort of airy fairy, or they really don't know what that means. So, one of the ways is obviously to be working with you and you asking questions and you're doing readings and stuff like that. But what are some of the other ways, just some examples maybe, of ways that people can clear themselves?
Um, I think the first thing would be, again, it comes back to that question, what has your attention?
Mm-hmm.
And when you are aware of what has your attention, go into your body. Like, where do I feel that? This thing that has my attention, does it have me in my head all the time? Is it making me anxious? Um, is it in my gut? Right? Usually it's somewhere between like, your waist and your head, right? So where is it right now? Right? And maybe put words to it. It's anxiety, it's worry, it's whatever. What is the subject matter? It's going to be out of probably one to three things, which is a relationship related thing, finance or professional business related thing, or just a health concern of some kind, right? So it's those three things often what it is related to.
Yeah.
Um, so what has your attention? Where do you feel it? Go into it, describe it, right? And then just start breathing, like breathe into it. Move your body. I just asked someone on a connection messaging today was like, what do you do that makes you calm? What do you do that um, sort of centers you a bit? And quite often it's I get outside, I'm in nature, I be by water, I breathe. If they know anything about breathing and breath work, you know, um,
Meditation.
meditation, I get quiet, right? So whatever it is that can help you get grounded and centered, that's how you can start to access answers to very simple questions, right? Like, what is the first step? What is, and that's maybe a great time to score up, right? On the four things. Get your score because it could be anything, right? And it could still be your ego saying, well, you need to lose weight, so you need to start like eating better. So once you get that other fucking voice start to show up, go, hold on a second, let's just score up and
Yeah.
and see where we're at. And then from whatever one of those four components you're scoring the least or the most challenged in, what is one easy micro step you can change in 10 days,
Yeah.
right? And then create room for you to make that change
Yeah.
and just give it a go, give it a shot, see what happens, right?
Yeah, and even in those moments, just any one of those things, whether it's talking to a friend, whether it's getting outside, going by the water, getting a little workout in, meditation, writing, we didn't say. Like there's so many different ways, and that's another one where you can actually just ask yourself like, which one do I want to do right now?
Yeah, we all have different superpowers. Like I think when I didn't know anything about any of this stuff, I didn't know how to call any of this stuff, or I didn't
Yeah.
know what intuition or meditation was. I think I was like 20 years old.
Yeah.
Writing was what I discovered. I discovered that journaling and having a conversation with myself or my higher self is what unlocked something really interesting for me before I even knew I was going to even get into this industry, right? So writing for me was a big one. So allowing space and time to get quiet in that way and to access that is huge, right? And in a sense, you're allowing yourself to be heard and felt and seen, right?
Yeah.
So and I like to provide things like the score sheet and stuff like that to give you some sort of metrics, some sort of measurable way of tracking it, right? And then you can set goals that way too, right? And I think so. Just to recap that. So once you're sensing that you need to be cleared or something, you want to stop, get quiet, get centered, and then ask questions and ask one question at a time and just kind of let it come through you. And it might come through you through thought, through feeling, through hearing, through writing, whatever it is. And then you'll find that as you get going, you kind of forget what you were anxious about, and you're kind of on this whole other different tangent, right?
Yeah.
And it might lead to what I recommend is try to pull out once you've kind of worked through those thoughts, try to pull out three insights or actions or next steps and put some kind of date to at least one of them,
Hmm.
right? Some way to sort of like move forward, and then have someone in your corner, have someone for accountability. That's what also a lot of what I do with my clients is I'm there to be in their corner and help them stay accountable to their tasks and their goals and stuff, right? So the other thing I can throw to everybody here as well is um, with everything we discussed, and if they're experiencing this as well, when you look at um, what has your attention, what your scores might be looking like, and what you can do next about it.
Yeah.
The final question is like, what is the impact or cost of delaying the process,
Hmm.
right? What's the impact or cost of delaying, creating room to activate your next level? Um, like if it meant your relationships were going to improve, if it meant your health was going to improve, it meant your professional life was going to improve, like
Yeah.
what is preventing that from happening, right?
The cost of waiting.
Yeah, and what is the cost of delaying that? What are you and your loved ones potentially going to I wouldn't say miss out. I want to create these negative emotions, but what is the cost to you and your loved ones if you delay
Yeah.
that even just taking that first step,
Yeah.
right?
That's a great question. I love this question. Okay, so this has been so good. I love that you've uncovered all these different pieces of the work that you've been doing and how it works and how you put it together and some of the simple like tools people can use. We know that obviously when you're working with somebody to help you through this and choose the thing that you're going to work on for your 10-day reboot and help you get through day 4 that makes you feel like something's not working or
Yeah.
whatever can always be super helpful. So can you just share with everybody what's the easiest way to get in touch with you if they're looking for some support in this area? What's the best way for them to contact you?
You can catch me on I'm on Instagram, uh, the Empowered Human 3.0. I'm also in Facebook. Just look me up on Facebook. There's also my emails, empoweredhuman369@gmail.com. So any one of those ways is reaching out. We can have an initial conversation, exchange, share what's got your attention, and it just starts from there. It's a very easy process to get started. And think of it as we're at the edge of the jungle, and I live to go in there with you and support you along the way, but you're doing the work. So you're the one with the machete. Machete's got your name on it, and you're gonna be cutting your own path. But I'm here to help you navigate that process, and eventually you're gonna have all the tools, or discover that you already have all the tools you need to navigate your next level journey, right? So yeah, I'm open to having a connection call, conversation, see if I'm even the person
Yeah.
for you right now, right? There's other people I know in my network, colleagues of mine as well that have other skill sets as well. So I'm just open to having that first connection to see if there's anything that I could contribute to your journey.
Okay, amazing. And then we'll also put your call booking link in the show notes as well, just jodyrumack.com/Brian call.
Yeah.
You can also use that to just book a call directly. So thank you so much. This was so great. I'm so excited for people to have had a chance to learn more about what you do and how you can help. And you've been such a game changer for our clients and being able to help them, work through all the emotional, spiritual side of things so that they can get back to work. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for this, and looking forward to season 2.
All right, let's do it. Thank you. And congratulations on first season done. All right.